The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on a break!
with Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Monday, September 18th, 2023, season 19, episode number 33. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and today we get to talk about a big win. Cowboys win 30-10 versus the New York Jets. They do a back-to-back on the state of New York, and I guess New York, New Jersey, however you want to put it, but they beat them both. And between the two games, scored 70 points and only gave up 10. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. Cowboys are sitting pretty right now and looking good in a division where three teams are sitting pretty and looking good. So it's going to be one of those kind of seasons. It'll be fun. We'll keep going today, though. We'll break down this win of the Cowboys from yesterday. Let's start first with the man, Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. He goes 31 of 38, 82% completion rate, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 112.2. How did you assess this game?
Dak was surgical, and he wasn't perfect, but he was, in fact, surgical. I mean, you start off the game going 8 for 8, then 12 for 13. You get things going on the first offensive drive of the game. You march down 12 plays, 75 yards, 5 minutes, 41 seconds off the clock, and it ends in a touchdown. That was a masterpiece to open the game for the Dallas Cowboys. And the fact that the Cowboys won the toss and did not defer showed you what the goal was for Mike McCarthy in that offense. It was to get them going and to show the Jets defense that we're not afraid of you. We've heard all of this about how we're going to have a hard time against you, but we're going to basically run this down your throat, throw it down your throat. You're going to have to deal with it. CeeDee Lamb, fantastic game. 143 yards on 11 receptions, tied a career high in receptions, only 8 yards shy of surpassing his career most as far as receiving yards. A lot of questions about, if Brandon Cooks cannot go, what does this look like for CeeDee Lamb against the Jets defense, who might not try to key in on Michael Gallup, Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert. Shouts out to Tolbert, who also, he had 3 catches yesterday. He did his thing. But CeeDee Lamb is just maniac mode. So this offense, even when it was not whole, you talk about no Tyler Smith, talk about no Brandon Cooks, against a number 3 ranked Jets defense that turned Josh Allen over 4 times. You go up against this team and you turn it over 0 times. And then the defense took it over from there. So offensively, great game, surgical from Dak Prescott. Defensively, special yet again.
I know there are some red zone concerns there, and I'm sure we'll get to it later.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, I think Dak, so far, he's had such a clean game. And going back again, and don't ask him again about the interceptions. He made that clear yesterday at the press conference. Yeah. He's
I'm actually glad he did.
I like it.
What about the year before?
Yeah.
And the year before?
Exactly.
Good for him, and that's the way he should be. But I think he's done a really, really nice job despite everything that happened last year, despite all the criticism. He, once again, is able to protect the ball and not take too many wild, crazy risks that are unnecessary. And what he did, you talked about CeeDee Lamb, those long throws. I mean, they were beautiful in some of those throws that he made. And again, you talked about Tyler Smith not being in, them not having their complete O-line starters there. He's still being able to perform at a pretty good level, and the O-line has done a really nice job holding up, giving him the time that he needs. He was only sacked once, right? I know he ran and then they got him. But they've done such a good job, and I know fans, because I know myself too, watching the games and being like, okay, I know they can be better. I think they should be better. They should be scoring more. They should be scoring faster, but at the same time, you don't need them to be that just yet. And they have the tools and the talent there, and it'll come at the moment that it needs to happen. But so far, the complementary football that you got going on between the defense and the offense, what they're doing right now, I think it's excellent. And if it goes as it's going right now, they should be getting very far ahead this season.
Yeah, the play caller's doing a really nice job, and they're doing a good job of scheming things as well. There've been really some creative things. You'll get into the red zone stuff, I'm sure we'll talk about. There were some things that they tried to set up, and the Jets did a good job of defending some of the things, some of the different sets that the Cowboys tried to go to. There was a couple of missed blocks down there that cost them some problems as well. The only two throws, you can think about the throws that went to the middle of the field, the one that went to Gallup that was a little high. Lamb came down with one in the middle of the field. But other than that, the pass he tried to throw in the red zone to Ferguson was just a little, Ferguson did a good job of winning off the line of scrimmage. It's a pass that Dak would probably want back. Yeah. Last week when we were breaking down the Jets, we're saying don't be late with the ball to the outside. Sauce Gardner. That's the danger when you play against the Jets and these two cornerbacks. If you're late with the ball, I mean, they're trying to run CeeDee out of the slot and just run him on the out. And Dak's like, I'm not sure. Now I'm going to throw it. That could have been a really disastrous play for you. Sometimes you catch breaks along the way, but I think offensively, the play caller did a really nice job of getting his guys in the right sets. As Ambar mentioned, the offensive line was outstanding, and then you had some young guys, like guys like Turpin that picked up the slack, Schoonmaker with the route he ran to get open for the touchdown. Those young guys have to pick up the slack when others are out like Cooks.
I'll go back real quick to that beginning of the game. I don't want to spend too much time here, but I do think it's worth a mention. Patrick, you talked about it, them deciding that they were going to take the ball as opposed to deferring. I am
That's
one of those
something you're
people.
very passionate about, Derek.
And I've always been this way. Always defer, because I always feel like the advantage of being able to it's exactly what happened with the Jets, of being able to score and then get halftime,
win the first,
and then get the ball back.
They call it the 8 minutes.
Right.
You win the middle of the game.
Right.
You get a score, and then you take the ball and score again.
There's no other time in the game where you have an opportunity to get the ball back to back without a turnover.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a valuable commodity if it works out that way. So that's why you always defer. But I did think about it a little differently after the game.
Well, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
It flipped. Dallas did score, and they got a 3-and-out from the Jets.
Right.
See,
Sure.
and that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, it's one of those kind of things that you kind of have to, think about, right, as it's going along.
And that's the thing. Like, it did make me rethink a little bit. If they're thinking about it like this team is so good on the defensive side of the ball, if they can get an early lead, they quickly force a team into abandoning their strategy of wanting to run. We talked about, it's the boa constrictor, right? It's the same thing. So maybe it's that. And if that's the strategy, and I'm kind of changing my tune a little bit on deferring all the time, because for a team like this, and we saw it happen last week, we saw it happen again this week, you get to the third quarter, and really, in the third quarter of this game, the Cowboys didn't have it. Like, it wasn't a situation where the Jets had to abandon the run.
Yeah.
But I bet they were feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
And you could tell by their play calls, they were feeling the pressure a bit. I think it was 6 of the 11 called runs that they had in that game happened in the first 2 series of the game.
Yeah.
And as the game wore on, they started feeling more and more pressure to have to try to make something happen, which resulted in them throwing the ball more and more, which played right into Dallas's hands.
No, you're absolutely right. And the thing that I'm always impressed by the way, though, that the Cowboys' defense and their ability to, I think the tone of the game defensively was set on the very first play for the defense, and the fact that you were able to take. Golston started the game at left end, which is normally Tank's spot. Mm-hmm. And what they did was like, okay, we're going to put our best run defenders on the field to start this game. Like, you want to go ahead and try and run the ball on us. So they flipped Tank from the left side to the right side. Mm-hmm. And then he's able to make the play -4 right off the jump. So now you're like the Jets. You're going, okay, this is what we're going to deal with today. Right. We're going to deal with, we think that we're going to be able to run the ball opposite. You don't want to run at Tank. You just don't. He's one of your better edge defenders. So what the Cowboys do, they're thinking, okay, this, Hackett's going to turn and he's going to hand the ball and they're going to go left. They're going to try and get something going left here and see if they can pop a play. Quinn in the group, very smart, says, no, we're going to flip our best run defender onto the other side. And Golston makes the start at left end. So Dan Quinn and that staff does a great job of taking things away from you. And the players execute so well that they put you in really bad down and distance situations. And it works very, very well.
It was a master masterful job by Dan Quinn, like you said, of scheming and getting players in position to kind of throw the Jets off completely. There was another play where Breece Hall tried to go right up the middle, but he was met by Micah Parsons, and I bet he was not expecting that because typically Micah is coming off of the right edge, but on that particular play, Micah was playing more inside.
Yeah.
And then he beat his guy, and he got Breece Hall for TFL. So the Cowboys were mixing and matching, and they were playing the matchup game perfectly. And then when you look at it from an offensive standpoint, and hopefully the young man is okay. Chuma Edoga, he left with an elbow injury in the third quarter. But we talked about him having another big test, a huge test against Quinnen Williams. You talk about somebody who did well against a monster in Quinnen Williams, because the Jets, for the most part of
Did Quinnen Williams play?
That's my point.
He did beat a block one time. He got past.
He just didn't destroy the game. Which
No,
I was
but
never
there
like,
was
just don't
only,
destroy the
there
game.
was only one particular time where I think I tweeted as well. I was like, Quinnen Williams just taught Chuma Edoga a lesson on that particular play. But the remainder of the plays, he was silenced for the most part. Yeah. And that was with the Jets keeping him away from Zach Martin. So the fact that he was silenced for all but one, maybe two plays, good job by Chuma Edoga. But, I mean, going back to that Cowboys defense, they're special and they're showing why. And it's not simply because they have playmakers at every spot on the defense. It's because they're being orchestrated and coordinated by the best defensive mind in all of football right now. And it is just a pleasure to see it. And one thing I will say, going back to your question about, and I'm also a mostly defer guy as well, because I want the offense to start the third quarter just in case things don't go well in the first half. But I think showing the Jets that you were not afraid of their defense, then your scripted plays were just hang it in the Louvre. You march down 75 yards methodically and then you score. But it also kind of goes to Mike McCarthy feeling so confident that, we'll let the Jets have the ball to start the third quarter. We're going to get the ball right back. And then what happens? 3 and out. Cowboys offense brought back on the field early in the third quarter. So it worked out on all fronts.
Well, given McCarthy's history since the time he's been here, I think he's always been the type of guy that he wants to find out early in the game. Like, is it going to be this way or is it going to be that way?
Yeah.
He likes to figure out, and we talk about previous season, where it's like, why did he make that decision? Why did he try to kick it or go for it on this play? And he was asked about it after the game, and this was his response. He said, it's just a part of game management and how you feel the offense lines up against their defense and vice versa. We just really wanted to get going with that first drive. We put a lot of work into the start of the game, and we just wanted to try and get out front. Mm-hmm. So
I
exactly
think
what you guys said.
It gave him an opportunity as well to figure out, with no Cooks in the game, he probably felt like that he needed to find out what they were going to do to CeeDee Lamb. Because that's the one way, to me, that you stop the Cowboys. The San Francisco 49ers proved that. When Pollard went out of the game, what did they do? They took Lamb out of the game. Mm-hmm. And with no Cooks in the game, and you got a secondary that covers pretty well, I bet you Mike McCarthy and his group found like that they were going to get a lot of bracket coverage. That they were going to get the safety shaded to CeeDee Lamb's way. And so what they did was they tried to move him around and kind of keep him on the inside and keep him away from. And once that the Jets declared that they were just going to play him pretty straight up, then that's where Mike McCarthy went into the play calling and trying to get, CeeDee, the slant play, that they were able to hit for the big gain. Some of the other routes, the pass at the early, the first series, it was a stud or go, kind of a double move, and he was able to get past the corner on that. So once they figured out how the Jets were going to play him, then they got into their offense and saying, okay, we're going to be fine here. We don't have to rely on Gallup and Tolbert as much, or these tight ends, because they're really not taking Lamb away.
And what they also did was what I was hoping they would do, which was drag those linebackers, which is a fantastic linebacker unit for the New York Jets. They dragged them out of the middle. If you look at that first drive, it was such a heavy dose of Pollard. It was Pollard run, it was Pollard flat. It was Pollard run, it was Pollard flat. And that made the safeties and corners kind of start looking into the backfield, and then there's a shot to CeeDee. That was the warning shot on that first drive, that this might be a big day for CeeDee, but then they went back to Pollard more. Now let's get Jake Ferguson on the touchdown for the short yardage. So I love how the chess game was played with Mike McCarthy in the play calling. And red zone, we have some questions, and we'll talk about that over the course of the show. But even those things in the red zone, when we get to that point, the play call was not necessarily as much the issue as the execution or the lack of vision on that particular play by that particular player. We'll talk about it. But, I mean, I love the play calling by Mike McCarthy. healthy. Was it perfect? No. But was it great? Yes. Same with Dak Prescott. Was he perfect? No. Talk about the sailed pass to Jake Ferguson. He wants that one back. That's an example. He could have had a 3-touchdown game, right? So, but he was very efficient, very surgical. And what do we constantly talk about the Cowboys having to win to put themselves in position to dominate games? Third down. The Cowboys were dominant on third down in this game. And I saw a stat yesterday, Dak Prescott, he's basically just searing the field as far as other NFL quarterbacks on third down. He is by far the best on third down so far through 2 weeks.
We're going to take a break, but real quick, I'll make a quick note before we go to break. One thing to note yesterday, and we talked about it earlier last week, there were only 3 times of the 36 routes that CeeDee Lamb ran, only 3 times he was lined up across from Sauce Gardner.
Right.
I think talk about scheming and talking about putting him and figuring out where you're going to put him.
Right.
They knew where Gardner was going to be. He didn't move around. I think he was, on the 79 snaps that he had, only 71 of them. 71 of them, he was on the left side.
Right. They flip him when we broke down the Jets. They flip him when they get down in the red zone for some reason.
Yep.
And that's why one of the plays that we'll get into, one of the problems they had in the red zone was, I think, a really good Jets defensive play.
Right.
But like I said, we'll get into that in a little bit.
But that's one thing to note. And when you talk about how the Cowboys prepared for this game, I think it wasn't a coincidence that he wasn't lined up across from their best corner. No. And when you didn't have Cooks on the opposite side, that was a way to be able to negate that and really be able to get the most out of it.
They didn't waste his snaps.
That's exactly
put him
right.
against Sauce Gardner.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll dive in a little bit deeper on this offensive day. Talk about CeeDee Lamb's day, man. That was a big day, 11 of 13 with 143 yards. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't stop banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Check out the latest and greatest addition to the tours at AT&T Stadium and at the Star in Frisco. Meet Jerry Jones, an interactive experience. Get a peek behind the curtain and into the fascinating life of Jerry Jones with a focus on innovative fan experience in partnership with AT&T. This interactive technology gives tour-goers the opportunity to ask Mr. Jones a variety of questions. For more information and to book your tour, visit DallasCowboys.com/tours.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break, live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. This segment is brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, let's talk a little bit about CeeDee Lamb. He had 11 catches on 13 targets, 143 yards. Were you guys at all surprised that he was able to be this effective without really having much support from the other wide receivers? And I know we talked about it last week. If you didn't have Cooks, you were going to need something from Tolbert. You were going to need something from Gallup, maybe from Turpin. Tolbert had 3 catches for 18 yards. Turpin had 1 catch for 9. Gallup had 1 catch for 3. Didn't really get a lot of production out of the wide receiver group. Were you kind of surprised that they were able to be as successful with Lamb without that?
I wasn't surprised as far as his ability to do what he did yesterday. So that's not a shock to me. We've seen CeeDee Lamb do it 150-yard games before. But against, like you said, contextually speaking, against this secondary and without Cooks playing opposite you, that was surprising to see him be not effective. I knew he'd be effective, but to see him be that effective, I'd be lying if I said I was not surprised to see, if you told me that he would get 143 yards on 11 catches, 13 targets against this Jet secondary that we talked about, DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, the ability of their linebackers, their secondary overall. And again, without Cooks, I'm not buying that. I would probably buy a 75-yard game with a touchdown, but not 143. So credit to Mike McCarthy, the way he schemed this up. Brian Schottenheimer assisting with the coordination of the offense as well. And also credit to Dak Prescott because he's the one doing the pre-snap reads, and he's the one pulling the trigger on the ball, getting it out effectively, trusting CeeDee Lamb because they had some timing issues last year that led to some interceptions, but you're seeing those two are in lockstep. And I love what Dak Prescott said after the press conference. He said, if you go back and look at this film, look at my feet, Dak's feet, and look at the receiver's feet. And he said the timing of their footwork is in lockstep, and that's what's helping with the snap release. So I love to see and continuing to see what Dak and CeeDee are building. It's rolling over from training camp. They had magnificent chemistry in training camp, and now we're seeing it transfer over to the regular season. So those interceptions that you saw last year because of timing issues, I'm not saying they'll never happen over the course of 17 games plus the playoffs, but you're not going to see them timing again between those two guys. I'm
surprised, and this is the Jets just not having a willingness to move their corners.
Thanks.
That's Robert Saleh, and that's what they believe. And you're going to play left side, you're going to play right side, and if you're not going to move, or you're not going to overlap, or you're not going to play press, and you're going to let him have free access and routes, and you're going to let him throw delay screens to him and bubble screens, and let him run routes and double move and stuff. That's on the Jets. That's on the Jets right there. That's just, to me, that's poor defense. When there was a concern about Cook's not playing in this game, and could the others step up? Well, really, they didn't. They didn't take Lamb out of the game. And to Lamb's credit, he where he was, whether it's slot or tight slot, wherever, they tried to move him around just to say, okay, well, if they're not going to play him, if they're not going to press him, if they're not going to bracket him, well, then we'll throw him the ball all day. This is more about Dak and CeeDee. It was very good on their part. I'm not taking anything away from that. This is more about the Jets just saying, you know what, we think that we're good enough that we could play this thing straight up. And, you got punished for it yesterday.
I don't think I was surprised, just because I think we're now seeing just the fruits of CeeDee's talent combined with the coaching staff and Mike McCarthy playing to his advantage, positioning him in better places for him to be more successful on the field. And we saw it last year. I forgot what game, but when you had Amari Cooper out, CeeDee Lamb wasn't producing too much, and it was like, okay, you take out somebody like Amari, and now CeeDee Lamb is not necessarily able to fully step up and provide you with what you need offensively. But this year, and Mike McCarthy talked about it after the during the press conference, he said they were expecting, with Cooks being out, they were expecting them to even do double coverage on CeeDee. And just them moving him around the field is becoming now part of their offense. So that's something that we can most likely expect to happen throughout the season, where they're just kind of moving CeeDee around. But we know CeeDee is super talented guy. So it's great to see him being able to be successful in that way without a guy like Cooks. Because I said it last week, I'm like, you lose Cooks on the offense, and I think you're missing a huge part of speed and talent and that extra spark. So it's good to see that you feel better that if something was to happen to where now a guy like Cooks is out longer or whatever else happens, you can 1,000% count on CeeDee.
I don't think that Dallas is going to play. They're going to be some talented secondaries, but if you're an opponent of the Cowboys and you're sitting in your facility wherever, I think you have to question what the Jets were thinking.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, we cannot. It's kind of like, okay, we can't let the Cowboys, we can't let them just rush the passer. That's something we can't have happen on the other side of the ball. We can't let CeeDee Lamb just control the game. But, you know, if you're sitting there and you're the Arizona Cardinals and you're like going, well, why would they do that? A lot of it has to do because they believe so much in their talent. There's some lesser talented defenses in the league that will say, you know what, we'll commit. If they're going to throw the ball, we'll commit to try and stopping CeeDee Lamb in these games. We're not going to let him do that. That was just, I think that was very, very overconfident on the Jets' part to think that they could just play him straight up. And it might go to a little bit, too, about they didn't think their pass rush didn't get home. The Cowboys' offensive line did a great job of allowing Dak to throw the football and sit there and have time. He wasn't harassed nearly enough in this game. If you're Robert Saleh and that crew, you're thinking like, man, we got ate up because our pass rush was not effective today at all.
Here's what's funny to me. You know, going into this game, you hear with the fans speak, you hear, oh, this is a trap game for the Cowboys. They're going to play down the competition because it's Zach Wilson. And all week we were saying that's not the culture of this locker room. But Brian just touched on something that sparked a thought in my head. What if hearing that Cooks suffered an injury and then Cooks doesn't play, what if this Jets defense, who has been praised all week, yeah, we're the ones, and we don't have to defend Cooks, all we got to do is shut down Lambo, that maybe they're thinking that's light work. Maybe this became kind of a trap game for the Jets defense. And because they couldn't get home, they couldn't get that pressure on the offensive line, it turned into a horror show for them as well. CeeDee Lamb had 106 receiving yards before the 2-minute warning before halftime. That is insane. And it's because he was being moved around, and maybe it's Robert Saleh thinking, okay, well, no matter where they put CeeDee Lamb, we have a him that can keep him from getting the ball. Well, as it turns out, you didn't, because the only him that had a chance at stopping CeeDee Lamb was Sauce Gardner. And I think Dak learned a quick lesson on, like what Brian said last week, why it's important to get the ball out decisively, because that one moment where he hesitated and threw the ball, that could have been a pick six, thanks to Sauce for dropping that ball. But outside of that, CeeDee Lamb had carte blanche to do what he needed to do because he was schemed effectively. Kudos to him for, executing like he needed to. Credit to Dak Prescott for executing like he needed to make sure that connection dominated the game, and it did. And, I mean, that's scary hours for any opposing defense that does not have the personnel that Robert Saleh has with the Jets defense, because Cooks is coming back. It might be as early as this week, but when Cooks comes back and Tyler Smith is back and this Cowboys offense is whole, I mean, good luck to you.
Yeah, as good as this offense was yesterday, there was the red zone.
Yeah.
And that was the area where I think most people coming out of the game had a problem with what the Cowboys did yesterday. I was left thinking to myself, and I don't know if this is a true statement, but it at least makes me wonder the kinds of play calls that they were making down in the red zone. I kind of wonder if McCarthy was thinking, my defense is really good. There's no point to take a lot of chances. I'm going to run the ball a lot more. And even if it's not necessarily a running play that I think is necessarily going to net it, I don't want anything negative to happen. I'd rather just take the 3 points and then put my defense back on the field.
Yeah.
What did you guys see in the red zone, and what do you think was the problem?
I think they tried to scheme some touchdowns. I do. Because if you look at there was one time where Dak got sacked. It was the one sack that they gave up where they got a bunch formation to the right, but they've got Tolbert really tight next to Steele. Like they're like all these bodies, but they got Tolbert really tight. So what they're going to do is they're going to move the pocket right, and they're going to delay. They're going to make it look like Tolbert's going to block, and then he's going to release going left. So it's going to be a throwback is what it's going to be. Well, the Jets are playing zone. So what happened when Tolbert released, he went right into a zone with 3 Jet defenders right there. They get in the red zone one time, and they're going to run the ball. And the ball's going to go away from Bass and Smith on the backside. And that's when Quinnen Williams had the tackle for the loss, because he just backdoors the play, and then he's able to do that. They had another time they missed the pass to Ferguson.
Yep.
That could have been a touchdown right there. I think there was some scheming that was going on to try and see if they could maybe put a couple of those in just that way. I also believe, though, the running the football, especially with the way the game was going and the control that the Cowboys had, this might have been Mike McCarthy saying we need to get a little tougher here. We need to get a little tougher with when we get down there, we have to have an ability to find a way to run the football. And they tried. I'll say this though, Hunter Lipke has got a long way to go. And I'm sorry, the state of North Dakota, I'm not killing the guy. I know I'm no longer allowed in that.
You still love North Dakota.
It's a beautiful place, North Dakota, and I'm not trying to kill your guy. But they're using him in roles where he's a blocker. And, there was one time where I wasn't sure. Tyron Smith flat got beat inside, and Hunter Lipke was kind of searching. And I was thinking initially, I go, was that Hunter Lipke's guy? No, it was Tyron Smith's guy. But there's another time where Hunter Lipke's on the edge and he doesn't quite get the block. And now the Jet defender steps up and it's a no gain or a gain of 1. So there are things that they're doing scheme-wise, the execution part of it we talk about, but there were things that they tried. It wasn't just, 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense. It was, we're going to try and scheme it. Jets played it well. But the times that they did try and run it, I think it was more about McCarthy saying that we have to establish a little toughness. It's been a long time. Ezekiel Elliott's not here anymore. You kind of have to reestablish running the football down in that area.
And it's good that you brought up Zeke because I had that thought yesterday. I think the absence of Zeke impacts the play calling down, particularly when you look at them starting, first and goal from the 1 yard line. You got to get a touchdown there. There's no excuse not to get a touchdown there. And last week I said that's the perfect situation for you to steal from the Eagles. You have a quarterback he's physically a unit. He's a specimen. 1 yard to go, first down, get back there and push your quarterback over because it's first down. So if it doesn't work, guess what? You still got 2nd and 1 and then maybe try 3rd and 1. But that should have been the play on 1st and 1. Just go down there and just man up, push him in. Chose not to do that? Okay, fine. No Ezekiel Elliott. So the next thing to do was the scheme to the right end, but not to Hunter Lipke.
Yeah.
To Peyton Hendershot.
Right.
Well, that didn't work. Well, why didn't that work? It could have worked, not because of the play call in that instance, because the blocking didn't develop for him to be successful off of that edge. But if Hendershot in that moment pivots his head to the left, plants his foot, and goes upfield,
absolutely. That's
Nick and I were talking the same thing. But the question
they got two guys to the outside,
right,
and you're right. Hunter Lipke, he's trying. He gets destroyed on the edge. They've got the block inside. But that's the problem. Sometimes you get a little cute. And you hand the ball to a guy that's not used to putting his foot in the ground and going straight up.
And going.
So
if that were anybody, if that would have been anybody else that was a skill player on this team, they probably can make that play. A tight end, as athletic as Hendershot is, probably just isn't accustomed to being able to plant that foot and sprint into the end zone.
Hand the ball to, and I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to create where they're trying to get 3 big bodies to one side. Yep. Where if you hand the ball to Turpin that way,
he makes that play.
He's gonna plant and he's gonna dive.
Right.
And that's what what happened. You get a big 6'5" tight end kind of lumbering, and now he's not sure because Hunter Lipke's kind of getting beat up. And, the block at the point's not really clean for him. He's not used to planting that foot and getting up inside. So sometimes you get a little cute, and a little cute gets you in trouble.
Agreed. And that's what happened in that situation. And, with that play call, the play call itself wasn't going to be effective because how the blocking did not develop on the edge. But the blocking developed on the inside. So at that point, the person with the ball, in this instance, Hendershot, you can help your play caller right there by saying, hey, vision, cut. Turn up field, lean, because it's 1 yard. So he cuts up and the momentum takes him into the end zone. So it's little things like that. And it's instances where, I would like to see them you talk about them, wanting to man up. I want to see them use Dak Prescott more. 1st and goal from the 1, push him in there. Don't be afraid to steal from the Eagles. It's working. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I'll say this. If the worst problem that the Cowboys have coming out of the first 2 weeks is that red zone hasn't been as great as they want, but they've still scored 70 points, then they're doing something right. And you would, as Amber said, you would expect that as time goes on, they'll get better and better at whatever the deficiency is, and you want to hit their peak as they get later into the season.
Well, let me say this real quick, too. We talked about the Schoonmaker touchdown on the mesh where he went across and it was open, boom. You got 2-point play was a good run. I mean, they were down there on the 1 yard line. They get a block. They get a block from Ferguson. Hunter Lipke is going to lead in there. Steele gets a block. They cave that thing down, and next thing you know, it's a 2-point play. That's kind of like a goal line run right there is what it is.
And I also love, kind of really quickly, going back to, we talked about CeeDee Lamb and his ability to take over that game. Look at a guy like Jalen Tolbert, and opening up the third quarter on that particular series, the ball got thrown to him several times. And it was kind of like a release valve to show the Jets, like, you got to account for this guy as well. And then when you get down into the red zone and Jalen Tolbert is targeted by Dak Prescott, he draws the DPI penalty, and then that leads to a roughing the passer, et cetera, et cetera. So good job getting Jalen Tolbert involved, and good job on Jalen Tolbert stepping up when the Cowboys needed him to step up.
All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back. We got to talk about my man Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah.
The day that he had. We'll do that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Dallas Cowboys Game Time powered by Lenovo, the official gaming platform and community of the Dallas Cowboys. Sign up now to compete in the Madden 24 for a chance to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the 2023 Dallas Cowboys home game. Qualifiers begin on October 6th and run through October 13th. Learn more and register at DallasCowboysGameTime.com.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios. At the start, we're talking about the Cowboys' win over the New York Jets, 30-10. They are rolling. This week they have a game against a team that probably is not going to put up a huge fight, but
don't do that.
As you know, in the NFL, anything can happen.
About trap game again.
Any Sunday. This week we will travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, and then next week you're back home to take on the Patriots, and then we get to the game we all want to see. Cowboys will head to San Francisco for a rematch of last year's.
You got New England in between for that.
That's what I said.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I said you got the Cardinals, and then you're back home to play Patriots,
right?
And then San Francisco.
I'm sorry, I'll do a better job of listening. I get accused of that on my actual radio show.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We need to talk real quick, though, about the kicker, Brandon Aubrey. Yesterday, 5 of 5 on field goals, 35 yards, 21 yards, 55 yards, 26 yards, 30 yards, and 8 kickoffs, 8 touchbacks. I don't know that you can have a more perfect day than that as a kicker, but have the Cowboys found their kicker to the point where you no longer have to worry as soon as the kicking situation comes up, or you're still sitting there like, I don't know?
I watched Dan Bailey fall apart one time.
Yeah, that happens.
I've seen. You know what? I'm always kickers now, unless you're the guy at the University of Texas that kicks with the Ravens.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of thinking it's a week-to-week proposition. I really do. I worked with the Cowboys in scouting for 6 years, where we had a guy named Steve Hoffman that used to find kickers. Never had to evaluate kickers in my life. Never had to go out and say, oh, wow, this guy can do it. This guy can do it. Because a guy like Steve Hoffman always showed up. He'd go down to a Cowboys-sponsored home place and, find a kicker among the group. He'd have 10 guys take him to Texas Stadium, and then one of those guys would turn into an all-pro kicker. And, so I'm like, I don't know about these kickers, but Steve Hoffman did. I take the approach now because some of these guys – they look really, really, really good. And then the next week you need them and they cannot find one. So I will be cautiously optimistic that they've chosen the right one here. And my friends, I'll tell you this, my friends around the league who do know kickers say initially when this guy was signed that he is wired right. So that I take as maybe he won't fall apart on you.
Mental part of it.
Maybe he won't fall apart on you.
I have a confidence meter that I've applied to the Cowboys kicking situation, and my confidence meter will go up and down depending on what happens on any given week with Aubrey. And it's because to be honest, I have a little bit of PTSD from seeing, Brett Maher fall apart in the playoffs. And at that point, Brett Maher had a resurgent regular season, and we were like, oh, he's okay. Okay, here we are. And we thought Brett Maher would be here a couple more years, whatever the case may be, and that did not happen. The wheels fell off. The yips happened, and he's been suffering from it ever since. So with that being said, and you combine that with the fact the Cowboys haven't located him at kicker in the post-Dan Bailey era just yet, I'm going to operate on a confidence meter. Right now, my confidence meter is 90%. With Brandon Aubrey. That's strong. And he's not going to be able to get to 100% with me until he has a fantastic season, and that includes showing me he can do it in the postseason as well. And then you ask me what my confidence meter, if it's at 100% in mid-February, and I'll tell you what the answer is. But, give this guy his roses. He's 7 for 7 in field goal attempts his first 2 games. Then the question was, well, we know he has the boot because you talk about the touchbacks. He's a touchback machine. But does he also have the accuracy with the boot? 55-yarder. He went out there and did his thing yesterday. So 16 points of that 30 for the Cowboys yesterday was on the right foot of Brandon Aubrey. So confidence meter right now, 90%. Can he drive it higher? I hope he does. Have a good week 3, have a good week 4, have a good week 5, so forth and so on, and you will inch ever closer. But the fact that I'm sitting here at 90% speaks volumes when you rewind back to asking me this question in training camp when we were having this conversation out in Oxnard, when my confidence meter, especially after the blue-white practice, was 1%. Couldn't have been closer to 0 without being 0.
I have to say, man, this thing looks much like Colorado State's chances to win in the Colorado game. That thing was ticking at 90, then all of a sudden that thing shot straight to the. I appreciate your love for the kicker here.
I do appreciate the love. I'll give him the 90.
I would say 90 is really confident in this guy.
It is.
If I ever get a 90 in anything, if I get my age to 90, I'll be happy.
It is.
But man, you go. I don't know what you're doing here, man. You got him here, but you're like, I don't know. I could just go. Speaking of Bob Barker, you could be falling off the cliff like that yodeler dude.
You could. And that's why we're operating.
That's you right there.
That's why we're operating as a meter.
And then boom,
that's why it's a meter, because it could fall off next week, and it could drop all the way.
I was thinking like 60. No. I'm like about 65% right now.
If it were
maybe 70, I don't know. But 90.
Here's what drives it that much higher.
Like the guy at the Ravens.
If we were talking another week like week 1 where it was 2 field goal attempts, 2 field goals made, okay, and he had done that again, so then he'd be 4 for 4 in attempts. It's like, okay, I probably would give him 50-55%. I'm like, he's trending in the right direction. But when you go out, when you're marched out there 5 times for field goal attempts, one of which being a 55-yarder, and then you mix in the 8 touchbacks, the confidence is there. The accuracy is there. He's no longer rushing the operation and everything. He feels confident. I see him developing a little bit of swagger. I'm not scared to give him the 90. But I also, again, I'll qualify it by saying this. This is a sliding scale. This is a confidence meter. I will not coordinate.
What are we doing here, man?
Honestly, the fact is, I actually agree with both of you guys. And here's why. Because with kickers, I believe in you until I don't.
Right.
I'm only 90%. Your Braves are going to win the World Series. That's only 90%.
I'm 99
right now.
I'm
right
99.
now,
I'm 99.
Right now, I feel extremely confident in this kicker. Send him out there. I don't worry about it. I'm like, do it.
Right
now, he misses one. Then I'm like, whoa.
And now, 80.
And then he misses the second one. And now I'm like, oh,
65.
God. Oh, God. Now we're playing.
Okay, is your type of
Right.
confidence,
Exactly.
is your type of confidence the type of confidence that when it's time to kick, you get up and go get a snack, you get up and go to the restroom?
No. Right now, yes. Yeah. The first extra point of next game, I won't pay that much attention. I will assume that he will make that extra point. Now, if he misses that extra point, all bets off. Right. And now my confidence back down there where I'm like, man, I need to watch this. I don't know what's going to happen here. Right. So that's what I'm saying. With kickers, you trust them until you don't.
I think
it's a quick sliding scale.
Let him miss a game-winning field goal, and we'll see what we are.
Then it goes from 90.
And let's all talk
25%.
Mr. 90 over here.
We'll be down at 30.
I'll tell you what, man.
As I said I would be.
Right.
So if it happens, and I hope it doesn't, because that means he didn't perform well, and we want him to perform well. But if he doesn't, and my confidence,
like I told you guys in week 3, I tell you what, I've got
happen.
this confidence in this guy, but right now I'm not.
I don't have any meter of any sorts, but we'll give that to you, Patrick. I don't
have a meter on CeeDee Lamb. If Lamb has a bad game, I'm still 100% in on Lamb.
I think I'm with you, Brian. As far as to me right now, it's a week-to-week basis.
Heck
just
yes.
because there's so much that changes every week that you have no control over. Yeah. So he could have a bad game, and it doesn't mean that he's already bad and get rid of him. It happens to a lot of people. But I will say this: credit to the coaches, credit to the Cowboys, and sticking with him and believing in him, because we, like you mentioned, Patrick, we were at training camp thinking I was about to get decapitated by a football that was going to hit my head in the middle of the show.
That was a really rough show.
And we were questioning why are they not bringing in another kicker to create competition.
That's catching strays.
Yeah. So, anyways, kudos to them for actually seeing it through, and I mean it's been working so far, and I hope it stays that way. But
AG, there's a reason why you and I have won awards together.
Oh my God, stop it!
All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. It's gonna be our big picture day. We'll get in here. We'll figure out what the big picture looks like in the NFC East and what the picture looks like in the NFC. There's a lot of teams out there that are playing pretty well. Yeah, a lot of interesting things happening around the league, though. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Till then, for Patrick Walker, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?